Every year in the United States alone, 50 million people experience some illness related to the brain. Neurologists and neuroscientists have the daunting task of treating the most complex organ known to medicine. But a few people who have suffered a brain illness choose to treat themselves. 10 years ago, Scott Hagwood from North Carolina, USA, could barely remember his own name after undergoing radioactive treatment for thyroid cancer.
They told me that when I would undergo the treatments that I would lose my memory. Books that I read, I couldn't remember one page to the next. It was also difficult to remember names. I couldn't remember the names of the nurses. It was difficult to follow along with television programs.
Incredibly, Scott not only recovered from cancer, but now as an American national memory champion, he has one of the best memories in the world. There are 468 playing cards in this stack, where once Scott couldn't remember people's names or books he read. Now he can remember every single card in order, and it takes him less than an hour to do so.
7 of hearts, 10 of diamonds, 4 of hearts, Queen of hearts.
Take a look at this table. It contains 33 items. Most of us would be hard-pressed to just remember what items are on the table, let alone remember them in order. It takes Scott just 2 minutes to commit every item to memory.
Number 1 would be car keys. Number 2 would be the statue of the golf man. Number 3, coffee cup. 4, sunglasses. The red folder. 9 is a puppy. Number 10 is a golf club. Number 13 is a plate. A roll of duct tape. A spoon. Lens cap. Red leaf. Cards. A napkin with a bunny. 32, a pine cone. And 33 is a pen with a green cap.
So how did Scott go from not being able to remember anything to performing these photographic memory-like feats? According to Dr. Murali Doraswamy, a psychiatrist and memory specialist at Duke University, North Carolina, the reason's simple. Scott exercises his brain.
Scott is a living example of a trained athlete, a trained brain athlete.
Memories, both short-term and long-term, are formed and stored in several areas of the brain. Effective memorizing depends on training strong connections between these different areas. But as with physical training, most of us don't bother.
You ask a sedentary man to run a 5-kilometer race, they're going to be puffing and panting by the time they're finished the first 3 or 4 laps. Whereas you ask a trained athlete to run a 5-kilometer race, they're not going to break a sweat.
Dr. Doraswamy has conducted experiments comparing a normal unfit brain with Scott's trained one. Both were asked to memorize and then recall a series of cards while their brains were being scanned.
This is an example of a normal control subject's brain. And as you can see, the 2 regions within the frontal cortex are lighting up, and there are fairly large areas that are lighting up. This person's brain is working fairly hard at trying to memorize the information. By comparison, I'm going to show you Scott's picture right now. So the same 2 regions of the brain that we saw activated in the normal control subject, the frontal cortex on the left side and the right side, show almost no activation in Scott's brain. And so what you're seeing is that the brain circuits are so efficient that they're not lighting up on the functional MRI scan.
As Scott proves, it's never too late to start training memory. But what's the secret of Scott's techniques? One of his main methods is visual association with objects that he places in a room. In this case, it's the top 10 best-selling albums of all time.
And I would mentally place an eagle, which lets me know that the #1 selling album of all time is The Eagles, their greatest hits from 1971 to 1975. Number 2 would be Thriller by Michael Jackson. Number 3, Pink Floyd, The Wall. Number 4, because this is lead crystal, Led Zeppelin.
Such techniques have enabled Scott to become the American national memory champion 4 times over. All very impressive. But what's the point? Dr. Doraswamy believes exercises like this can benefit all of us.
The key goal of exercise of memory training is to strengthen the very same circuits that are perhaps affected by aging and by diseases such as Alzheimer's, so that if you can build a greater reserve capacity early on and in midlife, then you can perhaps ward off these diseases.
Bug spray the beetles, backwards, forwards, or in any order. Anybody can do this, absolutely.
It would be great if all of us could take neurobics classes. We're focusing too much on a six-pack abdomen. We should be worrying about building our brain reserve, because memory is really our most cherished asset.